Hi everyone. I want to take a couple minutes to just try to explain the core issue behind the labor dispute going on currently at Carleton University and the CUPE 2424 strike. Um, so the first thing I have to confess is I am not a pension expert. This is me trying to figure out, and nor am I, should I say, a member of the CUPE 2424 bargaining team. I'm a member of two different unions on campus at Carleton. I'm a English instructor, a contract instructor with the Department of English for CUPE 4600. And I'm an educational developer with CUPE 2424, so I do have a stake in this, of course. But I am concerned that the kind of core issue that is fueling the dispute is really not one that is understood by possibly not be may not be understood by the wider community. So I wanted to take a couple minutes to try to explain what I see anyway as the core issue fueling this dispute. So a quick list of things I want to cover. I want to talk about pensions really quickly, and then turn to the collective agreement language in question, the Article 27 that's up for dispute. The university position on this, I'll try to summarize as accurately as I can. Finally the pension committee and how it relates to all this, and then wrap things up for you. So the first thing I want to address is this idea that pensions are a benefit or some sort of form of entitlement. So the kind of question I hear sometimes from people walking around campus or at the gates is, aren't pensions some sort of free gift or a handout the employer gives to you out of the goodness of its own hearts, right? So that you were some spoiled, entitled person who is getting some extra benefit that nobody else gets, and therefore you shouldn't deserve it, and don't complain if someone takes it away from you. Well, no, that's not the case at all. Pensions are in fact deferred wages. Right, so every person at CUPE 2424 pays into their pension plan at a rate of 6%, as we're going to see in a couple seconds. I'll get back to the specifics on that. And then that money is invested in a plan that's distributed across a number of different funds and stocks and bonds and all that kind of fun stuff. Right, so not a gift, not some sort of benefit. And in fact, the idea that pensions are a benefit is a misnomer, is a misunderstanding. They are in fact deferred wages. Okay, so what are the core concerns for CUPE 2424 members? You see people walking around, no doubt, at the gates at Bronson and at Colonel By with their "Save Our Pensions," "Hands Off Our Pensions" sorts of lines written on the signs that they're carrying around. And the core issues for them and for all of us are we need to maintain a say in how our own money is managed, right? And then therefore we would like to maintain the agreed upon structure of the pension plan, and that includes two crucial issues I'm going to get to in a second: the contribution rates and the minimum guarantee fund. So here is the language from Article 27 from the collective agreement for CUPE 2424. So you can see I've tried to capture page 33 and 34 here in my screenshot, and the key language is here down at the bottom under employee and employer. So we have written there, the employee contributes 6% pensionable earnings integrated with the CPP, the Canada Pension Plan, and the employer has the same language, plus any required contributions to the minimum guarantee fund. Now let me unpack a bit of that for you, a couple things to explain. First and foremost, that means that Article 27 clarifies a few things. First, that the employee pays 6% into their pension plan that's taken directly from our paychecks twice a month as we are paid. The employer also contributes 6%, a matching 6%, and you might think, well, that's a benefit. This one I would leave to pension kind of experts, but to me, arguably, those are deferred wages. I would think that if we were at a bargaining table talking about giving away our pension, which I would strongly oppose, that we would be looking for at least a 6% contribution to match the lost money there. And finally, it makes the employer responsible for the minimum guarantee fund. Now, this is something I want to talk about just a little bit, so you make sure you understand what that minimum guarantee fund is and why it's crucial from my perspective that the institution be made responsible for it. So the minimum guarantee fund language is really significant, right? It cements in writing two things. One, that Carleton's pension plan is a hybrid one, right? And that is, I'll get to that concept in a second, and that the employee is responsible for making sure, the employer, that should read, is responsible for making sure that the money for the minimum fund is available, and that is to say the pension plan is healthy, it is solvent. Now, the hybrid plan is the idea that there are two different kinds of options for your employee upon retirement. And the idea is you get the better of whichever one is performing best. So the minimum guarantee is the number that you will never drop below. And if the market performance outperforms that, then you would get that number. And if it underperforms, the university is responsible through the minimum pension, the minimum guarantee to complete that, to fill that gap, that difference. So, to give it some concrete numbers, let's say you're expecting to retire with the minimum guarantee fund based on your rate of pay and so on. You're expecting to have a pension of $25,000 a year. The market performance could go above. So let's say it ends up getting to an area of, let's say, 28,000, or it could go under, and you end up having the university ends up having to make, let's say, it's at 22,000, and there's a $3,000 difference there, and that's what the minimum pension or the minimum benefit, the minimum guarantee fund is there for. Okay, so the larger context behind this this pension plan is that it's not just for CUPE 2424 people, the staff. It's also the same pension plan that covers CUASA members, that is our full-time faculty, the maintenance people with CUPE 910, and ironically, our management. Now, CUASA has no such language as we do, as our no equivalent for Article 27. Most recently, CUPE 910 lost similar language in their collective agreement. In fact, it was one of the key issues around their strike a couple years ago, if you remember that. And then so you can see that CUPE 2424's collective agreement language is the last legally binding language that clarifies those two issues, right? Contribution rates, employee and employer, as well as the existence of a minimum guarantee fund. So the university position runs something like this. We want to remove the existing language around the pensions in Article 27. And the position there, and it's a weird one, it has something to do with kind of equality and equity, or the specious appearance of equality and equity. It represents some undue control over the pension plan by one member, and that's CUPE 2424. Now, one key thing to note is that absolutely no one is disputing that the pension plan is currently both solvent and well managed. It's performing well, and it has been for quite some time. And that should be, I hope, raise some questions for you that I've highlighted here in blue. You might be thinking, isn't the pension plan in crisis, and that's why we're looking to make a change? No, not at all. In fact, it's performing very well, and that's not an issue. And it's one of the reasons why we have a lot of people, I think, frustrated and kind of scratching their heads at the timing of this intervention from the university's perspective. And the other question might be thinking, well, maybe the pension plan is solvent and healthy, but maybe the university is some sort of financial crisis. And no, that's not the case either. Carleton University has had more than a number of years of surpluses of $40 plus million per year. And one thing you need to keep in mind with something like Carleton, like any other public institution in the university sector in Ontario, is a not-for-profit institution. So the university position is, it's working fine, right? The pension plan is healthy. It's well managed by the pension committee, and that's true, and I'll come back to that in a second. And furthermore, the university has said this in its writing, and this is true. No one is talking about changing minimum contribution rates. That's true. No one is talking about getting rid of the minimum guarantee fund. That's also true. Or no one is talking about switching things from a defined benefit to a defined contribution plan. All those things are true. And therefore, the removal of the language from Article 27 from CUPE's CUPE 2424's collective agreement won't have any impact on anyone. I like to think of this as the plausible rascal kind of argument. Relax, guy, put your feet up, take a rest. There's no concern here. And this is, if you're not familiar with South Park, their little plausible rascal Saddam Hussein and his smooth, slick demeanor and ways. Relax, guy, put your feet up. Now, here's the problem with that position. So I want to come back to the pension plan. Remember, I said that the pension plan has been governing things well, and all parties agree on that. So here's what you need to know about the pension committee. It consists of 7 members from the various groups who are involved in the pension plan. So we have a representative from CUASA who's active, 1 board of governor member, 2 people from management, 1 person from CUPE 2424, 1 person from CUASA who is retired, 1 person from the maintenance crew I mentioned, CUPE 910, and we have 1 chair who's not affiliated with any of those groups. And the pension committee oversees Carleton University's pension plan, and it makes recommendations for the Board of Governors to adopt. So you can take a look at, this is from the CIP, the Strategic Integrated something or other, I can't remember all the acronyms, but this is one of the documents produced recently in the last calendar year by the pension committee, and it lays out the roles and responsibilities of the pension committee, and you can follow the link that I've got there, type it in yourself, and read through that document if you wish. But I pulled this from the appendix, and I think there are a number of different statements throughout this document that say the same thing. So I'm not sure if this is the key one from anyone's perspective, but it makes the core idea clear. First and foremost, the university is the legal administrator of the plan, which is the pension plan, and is responsible for all matters relating to the administration of the plan. Right, so they wield authority on this. The board delegates tasks to the committee, which suggests again that they are in control of these things, and through the committee to various agents retained to assist it in carrying out its duties. The board, however, retains overall responsibility for the fund, that is the pension fund. The board has allocated its responsibilities, it's delegated them, in respect of the fund as set out below. Now, I hope you're seeing some issues there for concern from the perspective of those people who pay into their pension plans, right? That is to say, the pension committee is largely an advisory board. It holds little or no binding authority and has no binding powers for imposing its will on the pension plan. Instead, it's the university, through its board of governors, that wields that power. Right, so it wields no power. The pension committee, by definition, makes recommendations. It's delegated. It's a servant to the board of governors, and the board of governors, what they decide has to comply with collective agreement language, not necessarily with what the pension board advises. Now, historically, they always have, from what I understand from members who have participated, they have largely adhered to the advice of the pension committee. Right, but they are under no obligation to do so. So you see, I hope, where this is going. Right, if you don't have CUPE 2424's Article 27 language, then the Carleton University and the Board of Governors would no longer have any legal impediments to making changes to the pension plan regarding the items in question, that is the contribution rates and the minimum guarantee fund. And losing that language, and this is true, right? And this is where the university is somewhat telling the truth on this issue. Losing that language not immediately results in scary changes, right? The increased contribution rates, the scrapping of the minimum guarantee fund, all those things. But it absolutely, and this is what you have to understand is the core issue, it absolutely would open the door to make those changes possible in the future. Now, I leave you with a couple of questions to ponder as you chew on all that information. And I know it's not the most exciting stuff, but does it strike you as plausible, first and foremost, that you would have 850 members from CUPE 2424 marching in circles in the cold if they didn't perceive this attempt to remove the Article 27 language as an imminent threat to their pension plans? Second, does it strike you as at all plausible that the university would insist on the removal of that language unless it were planning to make changes, or at least to create the flexibility to make such changes at some point in the future? Why else would either party dig in so extensively? Third, if it were your money being put into the pension plan, and remember, if you've been contributing to this plan, let's say you work for 30 years for the institution, you might put anywhere between $250,000 to $300,000 of your money into this plan. If it were your money, would you want to surrender control of the mechanisms that keep contribution rates stable? Right? Remember, from our perspective, if a contribution rate increases, if we have to pay more, that's less take home every single paycheck. And would you want to jeopardize the existence of that minimum guarantee fund, which is written into our Article 27 language? And then finally, and this one really strikes me as I walk around in circles in the cold at the gates day over day, as I sit and chat, or stand and talk and chat with people who have been at Carleton. I've been there personally as a student from 1998 to 2003, came back to teach in 2009 and started working some administrative roles in 2009 and became full-time in my administrative job in 2013. So I get to know a lot of people who are approaching retirement, who have been there for 20, 25, 30 years. How would you feel if you had paid into one pension plan with a set of guaranteed promises to you and you've been paying into it for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, only to find out later, and possibly at the brink of retirement, that those guarantees have vanished. And now you won't have the money to retire that you thought you would. Right? It really puts things in perspective when you think about this is people's money that they have been paying into their pension plan, and they might have been doing so. In my situation, it's been about 5 years, but I walk the picket lines with people who've been doing this for 20, 25, 30 years, and they have been getting a document mailed to them every year that says this is the number, this is the amount of money that you're going to retire on. This is the amount of money you're going to retire on. Year over year, they get that document, and then they might find themselves 3 years from retirement. And suddenly, this whole kind of issue, the removal of the Article 27 language, would open up the possibility for that number to no longer be stable. Anyway, that's it for me on this. Some things that I would urge you to do as you reflect on this. One is just try to be patient on the picket line. I know how maddening it can be to be stuck in traffic, and I feel nothing but sympathy for you. If you can, treat your picketers at least with dignity and respect. If you don't, honk your support, and you're not really enthusiastic about being out there, just to try to at least be patient and respectful. And if you want to help this get this strike to an end, be sure to write your members of senior administration. The President's office would be a good place to start to urge them to negotiate a fair deal with CUPE 2424, one that doesn't require them to lose control of their money that they put into their own pension fund. All right, I hope you have a good day.